I was watering my tomatoes when the silver Mercedes pulled into my driveway. Out stepped Nadine in a crisp white dress, sunglasses perched on her nose like she owned the world. Behind her came a man in a gray suit carrying a leather briefcase. A notary. "Good morning, Miss Eudoria," she sang out, voice sweet as poisoned honey. "I came with wonderful news." I turned off the hose slow. Real slow. "We just sold this house." She spread her arms wide. "You're moving to a beautiful elderly community. They have nurses, activities, everything. They'll take such good care of you there." The words hung in the air between us. I wiped my hands on my apron, looked her dead in the eye. "That's real nice, dear. But before we go anywhere, how about we make a little stop first?" Her smile flickered. "A stop?" "The police station. They've been waiting to talk to you about some documents I sent them last week. Very interesting documents. They're excited to meet you." Color drained from her face like water down a drain. "What documents?" Her voice cracked. "Hi viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. Warm welcome to the family. Enjoy the story." I pulled a folded paper from my apron pocket. "The ones showing your attempt to sell property through forged signatures. The ones with your realtor's name. The fake bank account where you planned to deposit the money." Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. "This house isn't just mine anymore," I continued softly. "Part of it belongs to the Maynard Foundation. A trust in my late husband's name. That trust has an automatic fraud alert system. Notifies police the second someone tries selling property without proper authorization." The notary backed toward his car, face pale. "And the best part?" I unfolded my paper. "This here is a notarized statement from Calvin. Your husband. My son. Signed before you married. Says this house can never be sold without my explicit written permission. Because I helped fund it. So tell me, Nadine, which signature did you think you could fake?" Her hands trembled. Those perfectly manicured hands that never did real work. "That's impossible," she whispered. "Calvin said." "Calvin said what you told him to say." I folded the paper back up. "But my son didn't know what you were really planning, did he?" The notary was in his car now, engine running. "Mrs. Maynard, I was told this was legitimate," he called through the window. "I had no idea." "You better leave then, sir. Before you become an accessory to fraud." His car peeled out, leaving skid marks on my concrete. Nadine stood alone, white dress glowing in morning sun, face twisted between rage and fear. "The police are expecting us by noon," I said quietly. "But if you'd rather run, go ahead. They already have everything they need." She stumbled back in those ridiculous heels. "You can't do this," she hissed. "Calvin will." "Calvin will what? Stand by the woman who tried to steal from his mother? You don't know my son like you think you do." Her eyes filled with angry tears. "The desperate kind that come when you've been beaten at your own game. I gave up everything for him," she spat. "I could have married anyone. And for what? To be stuck with some old woman who won't let go." There it was. The real Nadine. "This house was never yours," I said simply. "Never will be." She ran to that Mercedes, fumbling with keys, perfect hair falling loose. Engine roared and she backed out so fast she nearly hit my mailbox. I watched that silver car disappear down Maple Creek Lane. Then I picked up my hose and went back to watering my tomatoes. Have you ever had someone you trusted try to take everything from you? Drop a comment because this story is just getting started. People always ask me how I raised a good man in a world full of bad examples. The answer is simple. You work until your hands bleed, you pray until your knees hurt, and you love until there's nothing left to give. That's what I did for Calvin. His daddy, Arthur, used to wake up at 4 in the morning to drive trucks cross-country. I'd hear that engine rumble in the dark, feel the bed shift when he kissed my forehead goodbye. Sometimes he'd be gone for weeks. But every penny he made, every single one, went into a jar labeled Calvin's future. I worked 2 jobs back then. Mornings, I'd sew alterations at Mrs. Chen's shop downtown. Wedding dresses mostly. Rich white women wanting their hems raised or their waists taken in. I'd smile and nod while they complained about catering costs that could have fed my family for a year. Evenings, I cleaned offices. 5th floor of the Harrison building. I'd push that cart from room to room, emptying trash cans, wiping down desks where men made more in an hour than I made in a week. Sometimes I'd find family photos on those desks. Smiling kids at soccer games. Vacation pictures from Disney World. I'd think about Calvin at home doing homework at our kitchen table. That boy never complained. Not once. When he was 12, he asked me why I came home so late every night. I told him, "Baby, your mama's building you a bridge to somewhere better." And he hugged me so tight I thought my ribs would crack. Arthur died when Calvin was 16. Heart attack in a rest stop somewhere in Tennessee. They found him slumped over the steering wheel, engine still running. The last thing he bought was a postcard for Calvin. Never got to mail it. It said, "Son, make your old man proud." I kept that postcard in my Bible for 20 years. After Arthur passed, money got tighter than bark on a tree. I took on a 3rd job doing laundry for the nursing home on weekends. My hands stayed raw and red from bleach. But Calvin needed to finish high school. Calvin needed to go to college. And he did. Full scholarship to state. Business degree. Top of his class. The day he graduated, I sat in those stands wearing the same church dress I'd worn to Arthur's funeral. Watched my baby boy walk across that stage in his cap and gown. When they called his name, I cried so hard I couldn't see. After the ceremony, Calvin found me in the crowd. He took both my hands in his and said, "Mama, I'm gonna build you that house. The one Daddy always talked about. I promise." I told him he didn't owe me anything, but he just smiled. That smile that looked exactly like Arthur's. 3 years later, he started his own business. Building custom furniture. The kind rich people paid thousands for. He was good at it too. Real good. Orders came flooding in. I gave him $15,000 from the money I got selling my daddy's land in Louisiana. That land had been in our family since Reconstruction. But Calvin needed it more than I needed dirt I'd never see again. He used that money to buy equipment. A workshop. Better tools. Within 2 years, his business was thriving. And he kept his promise. The house on Maple Creek Lane. 3 bedrooms, wraparound porch, garden space out back. He built parts of it with his own hands. I watched him hammer nails into the frame, sweat dripping down his face, looking just like his daddy. When it was finished, he handed me the keys. "It's yours, Mama. All yours." I cried then too. Different tears than graduation day. These were the kind that wash away years of hurt. We registered the house under my name for tax purposes. Calvin insisted. Said it would save money, protect the investment. I trusted him completely. Why wouldn't I? He was my son. My miracle. The boy I'd sacrificed everything for. That was 5 years ago. Before Nadine. Before the Sunday visits stopped feeling like love and started feeling like surveillance. Before the whispers behind closed doors. Before I heard her tell Calvin, "She's old. That house could be better used." Looking back now, I should have seen it coming. Should have noticed how her eyes lingered on the property deed hanging in my hallway. How she measured rooms with her gaze like she was already redecorating. But you don't expect your own family to plot against you. You just don't. Arthur used to tell me, Eudora, when people show you greed, don't rush to fight them. Sit still, and let their own hands undo them. I didn't understand what he meant back then. But standing in my garden, watching that Mercedes disappear down my driveway, I finally understood. Do you think hard work guarantees loyalty from the people you help? Share your thoughts below. Sometimes the people you sacrifice everything for are the ones who'll sacrifice you first. And sometimes, the quiet woman watering her tomatoes knows a whole lot more than she lets on. Nadine walked into my life on a Tuesday wearing a smile I should have questioned. Calvin brought her to Sunday dinner 6 months into their relationship. She wore a yellow sundress and carried homemade pound cake that I later found out came from the bakery downtown. Still had the price sticker on the bottom of the pan. "Mama, this is Nadine," Calvin said, and his eyes shone like Christmas morning. She hugged me tight, called me Mama Eudora, before I even said it was okay. Her perfume was expensive. The kind that costs more than my electric bill. "I've heard so much about you," she gushed. "Calvin talks about you constantly. The strong woman who raised him all alone. You're like his hero." The words felt rehearsed, like lines from a play she'd practiced. But I smiled. Because my son was happy. And isn't that what mothers want? For the first year, she played the part perfectly. Showed up every Sunday after church with little gifts. Scented candles that gave me headaches. Decorative pillows I'd never use. A scarf still in the store bag with the tags attached. "I just saw this and thought of you," she'd say each time. I thanked her. Put the items in my closet where they gathered dust. She'd sit at my kitchen table, sipping sweet tea, asking questions about my life. But her eyes would wander to the family photos on the wall, the property deed in the hallway, the nice furniture Calvin had built for me. "This house is gorgeous," she said once, running her hand along the oak banister. "Must be worth a fortune now. Property values in this neighborhood have skyrocketed." "It's my home," I replied simply, not thinking about its worth. Something flickered across her face. Disappeared quick as a match flame. After they got married, things changed gradual. Like milk spoiling. You don't notice until the smell hits you. She stopped calling me Mama Eudora. Started with Miss Eudora instead. More formal. Like I was a stranger she had to be polite to. The Sunday visits became duty instead of joy. She'd check her phone constantly. Sigh when I told stories. Cut me off mid-sentence to talk about her friends' vacations to Europe. One Sunday, I made my grandmother's recipe for peach cobbler. Took me 3 hours. Calvin loved it, went back for seconds. Nadine pushed hers around her plate. "It's very sweet," she said, wrinkling her nose. "I'm watching my sugar intake. You understand." The way she said, "you understand," made it clear she thought I didn't. Calvin didn't notice. Or maybe he did and chose not to see it. Love does that sometimes. Makes you blind to the small cuts that eventually bleed you dry. I started noticing the whispers. They'd stand in my hallway thinking I couldn't hear. But old ears work better than people think. "She doesn't need this big house, Cal. It's dangerous for someone her age. What if she falls? Mama's strong. She's fine." But think about it practically. The property taxes alone. The maintenance. We could sell this place, put her somewhere safe, and use the money to expand your business. It's logical. That's her home, Nadine. It's just a house. And she's getting older. We need to think about the future. Our future. Our future. Not Calvin's and mine. Theirs. I said nothing. Just kept cooking Sunday dinners they barely ate. Kept watering my garden while they had conversations about me like I was already dead. The final straw came 6 months ago. Nadine arrived without Calvin. Said he was working late. She sat at my table but didn't touch the lemonade I poured. Miss Eudora, we need to talk about your living situation. My what? Your living situation. You're 72. Living alone. It's not safe. Calvin and I have been researching assisted living facilities. Beautiful places. Communities where you'd have friends your own age. I don't need friends my own age. I need my home. Her smile tightened. With all due respect, this isn't just about what you need anymore. Calvin worries about you constantly. It's affecting his work, our marriage. The responsible thing would be to transition into a facility where professionals can monitor you. Monitor? Like I was some kind of science experiment. Did Calvin send you here to say this? Calvin is too emotional to have this conversation. So I'm having it for him. She pulled out a brochure. Golden Meadows Senior Living. Smiling old people playing checkers. Nurses in crisp uniforms. Daily activities listed in cheerful fonts. We've already toured it. There's a room available. You'd have everything you need. Except my freedom. Miss Eudora, you're being dramatic. This is about safety. And frankly about what's fair. Calvin built this house. Yes, it's in your name for tax purposes, but morally it belongs to him. To us. There it was. The truth she'd been circling for 3 years. Get out of my house. Excuse me. You heard me. Get out. And don't come back unless my son is with you. She stood, grabbed her purse. You're making a mistake. Calvin will hear about this. Good. Tell him everything you just said. Word for word. She left. Didn't slam the door, but might as well have. Calvin called that night. Mama, Nadine said you got upset. She was just trying to help. Help herself, you mean? That's not fair. She loves you. She loves this house. There's a difference. He sighed. Let's not fight. Please. Can we just have peace? So I said okay. Because keeping peace meant keeping my son. But that night, I couldn't sleep. Kept hearing Arthur's voice. Sit still, and let their own hands undo them. Have you ever bitten your tongue to keep family peace? Drop a comment if you have. The next morning, I made a phone call to my lawyer. Because sometimes sitting still means preparing for war quietly. And that's exactly what Nadine didn't know I was doing. The lawyer's office smelled like old books and lemon polish. I sat across from Mr. Henderson, my hands folded in my lap, trying not to look as scared as I felt. Mrs. Maynard, help me understand what you're concerned about. He had kind eyes. Reminded me of my brother who passed 10 years back. My daughter-in-law wants my house. And I'm afraid she'll find a way to take it. He leaned forward. Is the house in your name? Yes, sir. But my son helped build it. He's on some of the original documents. Mr. Henderson pulled out a legal pad. Started writing. Tell me everything. So I did. Told him about Nadine's visits. The whispers. The assisted living brochure. The way she looked at my property like a hawk watching a rabbit. She hasn't done anything illegal yet, I finished. But I feel it coming. Like rain you smell before it falls. He nodded slow. Your instincts are good. Let me ask you something. Do you trust your son? With my life. But do you trust his judgment right now? I thought about Calvin's face when he looked at Nadine. How he'd defend her even when she was wrong. "No," I admitted. "Not right now." "Then we need to protect you. And we need to do it in a way that even if your son is influenced, your property stays secure." That's when he told me about the trust. "We'll create what's called a charitable remainder trust. You'll transfer partial ownership to a foundation created in your late husband's name, the Maynard Foundation. You maintain full living rights to the property. You can never be forced out. But any attempt to sell requires approval from both you and the foundation trustees." "Who would the trustees be?" "People you trust. Your church pastor perhaps. Your longtime friends. People who know your wishes and will honor them." My heart beat faster. "And if someone tries to sell without permission?" "The trust includes an automatic alert system. Any unauthorized transaction attempt triggers immediate notification to local authorities and the County Fraud Division. It's built into the registration." "Can that really work?" "Mrs. Maynard, I've been practicing law for 32 years. This is ironclad. No one can touch your property without your explicit consent. Not your son. Not his wife. No one." Relief washed over me like baptism water. We spent 3 hours going through paperwork. Mr. Henderson explained every detail. Made sure I understood each clause, each protection, each safeguard. "There's one more thing we should do," he said, pulling out another document. "Before your son married, did he ever sign any agreement regarding this property?" I thought hard. Yes. When I gave him the money to start his business, we had a notary witness a paper saying the house couldn't be sold without my permission. Calvin insisted on it. Said he wanted to protect me legally since I'd invested in him. "Do you still have that document?" "In my safe deposit box at the bank." "Get it. Make copies. Keep them everywhere. That document combined with this trust makes your position unbreakable." I signed papers until my hand cramped. Mr. Henderson's secretary notarized everything. We filed it all with the county that afternoon. Walking out of that office, I felt 20 pounds lighter. But I didn't tell Calvin. Didn't tell anyone except Pastor Williams and my friend Dorothy. They agreed to be trustees. Said they'd protect Arthur's legacy no matter what. That night, I sat on my porch watching fireflies dance in the dark. Arthur used to love fireflies. Said they reminded him that even small lights matter in the darkness. "I'm protecting what we built, Arthur," I whispered to the night. "Just like you'd want me to." The breeze picked up, warm and gentle. Almost felt like his hand on my shoulder. 3 weeks later, Nadine started pushing harder. She'd show up unannounced. Walk through my house like she was measuring for new curtains. Ask questions about my will, my insurance, my final wishes. "Just trying to help you get organized," she'd say sweetly. But I saw the calculation in her eyes. The impatience. The greed that couldn't wait for nature to take its course. Calvin threw a fit when I asked him to stop giving Nadine my house key. "She's my wife, Mama. She's family. Why are you being so suspicious?" "Because she looks at me like I'm already dead, son. And she's shopping for my coffin while I'm still breathing." He hung up on me. First time in his life. I cried that night. Not because of the fight. Because I realized my son was so deep under her spell that he couldn't see what was right in front of him. But crying doesn't change reality. And reality was simple. Nadine wanted my house. And she was going to try to take it. What I had now was something she didn't know about. Legal walls so high she'd break herself trying to climb them. Mr. Henderson called the next week. "Everything's filed and active. The alert system is live. If anyone tries anything, we'll know immediately." "Thank you," I said, meaning it with every piece of my soul. Mrs. Maynard, I hope you never need these protections. But if you do, they're there. I hoped I'd never need them too. But hope doesn't stop snakes from striking. It just makes you ready when they do. If you believe preparation is the best revenge, drop a flexed biceps in the comments. 6 months later, I'd get the phone call from Mr. Henderson that would change everything. But before that call came, there'd be a wedding, a renewal of vows, and a drunk cousin who couldn't keep her mouth shut. The invitation came in a cream-colored envelope with gold trim. Calvin and Nadine were renewing their vows. 5 years of marriage. Destination wedding in Savannah. We'd love for you to be there, Mama, Calvin said over the phone. His voice sounded tired. It would mean everything. Of course I'll be there, baby. Wouldn't miss it. Nadine got on the line. Miss Eudora, wear something nice. It's going to be elegant. Very elegant. Translation: Don't embarrass us with your old lady clothes. I bought a new dress anyway. Navy blue with a pearl necklace Arthur gave me on our 20th anniversary. Simple but dignified. The wedding was at some historic mansion with columns and chandeliers. Everything dripped with money. White roses everywhere. String quartet playing Mozart. Guests in designer clothes sipping champagne that probably cost more per glass than my weekly groceries. I felt out of place. Like a crow at a peacock convention. Calvin looked handsome in his tuxedo. My baby boy all grown up. For a moment, watching him at the altar, I forgot about Nadine. Just saw my son. The one I'd raised with bloody hands and a broken back. Nadine floated down the aisle in a dress that must have cost thousands. White lace, long train, veil sparkling with actual crystals. She looked like a movie star. Everyone clapped. I clapped too. Because whatever else was true, my son loved her. And watching him cry when she reached the altar broke something in me. Maybe I was wrong about her. Maybe she'd changed. Maybe love had softened those sharp edges I'd been so worried about. The ceremony was beautiful. The pastor talked about commitment, trust, building a life together. Calvin and Nadine exchanged new rings. Kissed while everyone cheered. At the reception, I sat at a table near the back. Nadine had placed me with her elderly relatives. People I didn't know who didn't want to know me. I ate my salmon in silence. Watched the young people dance. Tried to feel happy. Then Nadine's cousin Brenda sat down next to me. She was already drunk. I could smell the wine on her breath. You must be so proud, she slurred. Your son really made something of himself. I am proud. And smart of Nadine, securing her future like this. She always was the clever one. Something in her tone made me look up. What do you mean? Brenda leaned closer, whispering loud the way drunk people do. Oh, you know. Getting that house situation handled before things get complicated. She told me she's been working with a realtor. Smart move, freeing up property before the inheritance transfers. Less taxes that way. My fork clattered onto my plate. What house situation? Brenda's eyes went wide. Oh no. I wasn't supposed to. She said it was all agreed. That you were moving to one of those nice senior places. The room tilted. The music got louder. My chest felt tight. Excuse me. I stood, grabbed my purse, walked outside. The cool night air hit my face like a slap. She was already doing it. Already making moves. Already talking to realtors about selling my house while I was still alive and living in it. My hands shook. I wanted to march back inside. Wanted to confront her right there at her fancy party. Expose her in front of everyone. But Arthur's voice whispered in my head again. sit still, and let their own hands undo them. I went back to my hotel room instead. Sat on the bed still wearing my navy dress and pearls. Opened my suitcase. Inside, packed carefully between my clothes, was a folder. Property transfer, emergency clause. I'd brought it just in case. Some part of me knew. Some part of me always knew. I spread the documents on the hotel bed. Read through every page. The trust. The safeguards. The automatic alert system. Calvin's original notarized statement. Everything was still in place. Everything was still protected. But seeing it in black and white didn't stop the hurt. Didn't stop the betrayal from cutting deep. My son's wife was trying to steal my home. Was planning it. Executing it. And Calvin either knew and didn't care, or didn't know because he was blind. Either way, I'd lost him. Maybe not legally, but in the way that matters. In the way that makes a mother's heart break. I didn't sleep that night. Just sat by the window watching Savannah's streets, thinking about everything I'd given up. Everything I'd sacrificed. And how it had led to this moment. This hotel room. This loneliness. But by morning, the sadness had hardened into something else. Resolve. Cold and sharp as a blade. If Nadine wanted war, she'd get it. But she'd never see it coming. Because the best battles are won before the enemy knows they're fighting. I flew home the next day. Didn't stay for the after-wedding brunch. Told Calvin I wasn't feeling well. "You okay, Mama?" he asked, concern in his voice. "I'm fine, baby. Just tired. You enjoy your celebration." He hugged me. I held on longer than usual. Because I didn't know when I'd get to hold my son again. Would you have confronted her at the wedding or waited like I did? Comment below. Back home, I called Mr. Henderson immediately. "She's making her move," I told him. "She's already talking to realtors." "Then it's a good thing everything's in place. The moment she tries to file anything, we'll know. And so will the police." I thanked him and hung up. Then I sat on my porch, watered my tomatoes, and waited. Because snakes always strike eventually. You just have to be patient enough to see them coming. And when Nadine finally showed up with that notary, I'd be ready. The phone call came on a Tuesday morning while I was making coffee. Mr. Henderson's voice was calm but urgent. "Mrs. Maynard, the alert system was triggered. Someone attempted to file a property transfer application yesterday afternoon." My hand gripped the phone tighter. "Who?" "A realtor named Marcus Webb. He submitted paperwork claiming authorization from both you and your son to list the property for immediate sale. The application included what appears to be your signature on a power of attorney document." "I never signed anything." "I know. That's why the system flagged it as potential fraud. The county clerk's office rejected the filing immediately and sent copies to the police fraud division. Detective Morrison will be contacting you today." I sat down heavy in my kitchen chair. "So it's really happening?" "Yes, ma'am. And we have her. Every document she submitted is now evidence. The fake signatures, the fraudulent power of attorney, the unauthorized realtor agreement. All of it. What do I do now?" "Wait for Detective Morrison's call. Cooperate fully. And Mrs. Maynard? Don't warn anyone. Not even your son. Let the investigation proceed naturally." After we hung up, I poured my coffee and sat at the table staring at nothing. Part of me had hoped I was wrong about Nadine. Hoped the trust and legal protections would never be needed. That maybe she'd change her mind, find some human decency buried under all that greed. But hope doesn't change people. Only consequences do. Detective Morrison called an hour later. Deep voice, Professional tone. Ma'am, I need to ask you some questions about your property and your relationship with Nadine Maynard. I told him everything. The wedding conversation. Brenda's drunk confession. The assisted living brochure. Nadine's increasing pushiness about my living situation. Have you given anyone permission to sell your home? No, sir. Never. Have you signed any power of attorney documents in the past year? No, sir. Would you be willing to come to the station and provide a formal statement? Yes, sir. When? Today, if possible. This is time sensitive. The realtor claims he was hired legitimately. We need your statement to prove otherwise. I drove to the police station that afternoon. Gave my statement. Signed affidavits. Provided copies of the trust documents, Calvin's original notarization, everything. Detective Morrison studied the papers carefully. This is one of the most thorough protective frameworks I've seen. Your lawyer did excellent work. He told me to prepare for the worst. Good advice. Mrs. Maynard, based on what we have, will be bringing Mrs. Nadine Maynard in for questioning. We may also need to speak with your son. My stomach dropped. Calvin doesn't know about any of this. I'm sure of it. We'll determine that during our investigation. But I want you to understand something. This is serious. Identity fraud. Forgery. Attempted theft of property. If convicted, she's looking at significant prison time. Prison. The word hung in the air like smoke. I don't want to destroy my son's marriage, I said quietly. I just want to keep my home. With respect, ma'am, she destroyed her own marriage the moment she decided to commit fraud. You're just protecting yourself. He was right. But it didn't make it hurt less. I went home and waited. Watered my garden. Cooked dinner I didn't eat. Tried to watch television but couldn't focus. That night, my phone rang. Pastor Williams. Eudora, I just got a call from the police. They're asking questions about the trust, about my role as trustee. What's happening? I explained everything. He listened without interrupting. You did the right thing, he said when I finished. The Lord protects the righteous, but he also expects us to protect ourselves. You were wise, sister. Very wise. Doesn't feel wise. Feels like I'm tearing my family apart. No. She tore it apart. You're just refusing to let her bury you in the rubble. After we hung up, I sat in Arthur's old chair. The one he used to read the newspaper in every morning. I could almost smell his cologne, feel his presence. I hope I'm doing right, Arthur, I whispered. I hope our boy can forgive me. The house creaked and settled around me. Old houses do that. Make sounds like they're talking. This house had stories in every board. Memories in every nail. And I'd be damned if I'd let someone steal those memories while I was still breathing. If you believe silence is louder than revenge, comment below. Detective Morrison called the next morning. Mrs. Maynard, we've scheduled Mrs. Nadine Maynard to come in for questioning tomorrow at 10 a.m. We wanted you to be aware. Will she know I'm the one who reported this? She'll figure it out eventually. But we're presenting it as routine investigation following the county clerk's fraud alert. Not as a direct complaint from you. Thank you. But I knew the truth. When Nadine walked into that police station, she'd know exactly who put her there. And that's when things would get ugly. I didn't sleep the night before Nadine was supposed to go to the police station. Kept imagining her face when they told her. The rage. The denial. The moment she realized I'd outsmarted her. Part of me felt guilty. The part that still wanted to believe in family, in second chances, in people being better than their worst impulses. But the other part, the The part that had worked 2 jobs and buried a husband and raised a son alone, that part knew better. By 8 a.m., I was in my garden, pulling weeds that didn't need pulling, trimming bushes already trimmed. Anything to keep my hands busy. That's when the Mercedes pulled up. My heart stopped. She wasn't supposed to be here. She was supposed to be at the police station in 2 hours. Nadine got out of the car. But this time, no designer dress. No sunglasses. Hair pulled back messy. Face tight with barely controlled fury. And she had the notary with her. The same nervous man from before. This was it. The moment I'd been preparing for. She marched up my driveway like a general going to war. "Miss Eudora," she called out, voice sharp as broken glass. "We need to talk. Now." I stood up slowly, brushed dirt off my gloves. "About what, dear?" "About this house. About you being unreasonable. Calvin and I have made arrangements. Good arrangements. For everyone. But you keep fighting us." The notary stayed by the car, clutching his briefcase like a shield. "I'm not fighting anyone," I said calmly. "I'm just living in my home." "This is ridiculous." She pulled papers from her purse. "We've already completed the sale. The buyers are waiting. All we need is your signature confirming the move to Golden Meadows. It's done, Miss Eudora. It's already done." She thrust the papers at me. I didn't take them. Just looked at her. Really looked at her. Saw the desperation under the anger. The fear. She knew something was wrong. Maybe the realtor had called her. Maybe the county clerk had mentioned the fraud alert. But she knew. And she was here trying to finish it before everything fell apart. "That's real interesting," I said slowly. "Because I never authorized any sale. Calvin authorized it. He's your son. He has the right to make decisions for your well-being." "No, ma'am. He doesn't. Not without my consent." Her jaw clenched. "You're being selfish. An old woman clutching onto property she can't even maintain properly. The yard's a mess. The house needs repairs. You're living in the past." "It's my past to live in." "Fine." She pulled out her phone. "I'm calling Calvin right now. He'll talk sense into you. You do that. And while you're at it, maybe mention something to him." She paused, finger hovering over the screen. "Mention what?" "That you have an appointment at the police station in about 90 minutes. Detective Morrison is very eager to speak with you about some documents you filed. Documents with my signature on them. Signatures I never made." The color drained from her face faster than water down a drain. "What are you talking about?" I reached into my apron pocket. Pulled out a folded letter. "This is a copy of the fraud alert that was triggered when your realtor tried to file unauthorized property transfer paperwork. The county clerk rejected it immediately. And then they sent everything to the police." Her hand started shaking. "See, Nadine, this house isn't fully mine anymore. Part of it belongs to the Maynard Foundation. That's a charitable trust established in my late husband's name. Any attempt to sell this property without proper authorization triggers an automatic investigation." The notary was backing toward his car now. And here's the best part. I unfolded the letter. This is a notarized statement from Calvin. Signed 5 years ago, before you two married. It explicitly states that this house cannot be sold without my written permission. Because I helped fund his business. I have ownership rights that no one, not even my son, can override." She opened her mouth. Nothing came out. "So tell me," I continued, my voice steady as stone. "Which signature did you forge? Mine? Calvin's? Both?" I didn't forge anything, the realtor said. The realtor is currently being investigated too, along with whatever account you set up to receive the sale money. Tears filled her eyes. Not sad tears. Angry, trapped tears. You can't do this to me, she hissed. I gave up everything for Calvin. Everything. I could have married Richard Pemberton. His family owns 3 car dealerships. I could be living in a mansion right now. But I chose your son. And you thought that entitled you to steal from his mother? It's not stealing. It's planning. It's being smart about assets and future and reality. You're old, Miss Eudora. You won't live forever. This house would just sit here empty eventually. Why not use it now while it can actually benefit the family? I am the family. The words hit her like a physical blow. The notary was in his car now, engine running. Mrs. Maynard, he called through the window. I was told this was a legitimate transaction. I want no part of this. His car pulled away, leaving Nadine standing alone in my driveway. She looked smaller suddenly. Not the polished, confident woman who'd walked into my life 5 years ago. Just a desperate person watching her plans crumble. The police are expecting you by 10, I said quietly. I suggest you get a lawyer before you go. Calvin will never forgive you for this. Maybe not. But at least I'll still have my home. She turned and ran to her Mercedes. Fumbled with the keys. The engine roared to life and she backed out so fast she nearly hit my mailbox for the 2nd time. I watched her disappear down Maple Creek Lane. Then I went inside. Made myself a cup of tea. Sat at my kitchen table and waited. Because I knew what was coming next. Like this video if you love watching karma unfold slowly. In 3 hours, Calvin would get a phone call from his wife. She'd be crying, hysterical, telling him his mother had destroyed everything. And then my son would have to decide who he believed. The woman he married or the woman who raised him. Calvin's truck pulled into my driveway at 2:30. I heard it before I saw it. That engine he'd rebuilt himself, loud and proud. Same truck he'd driven since college. He slammed the door so hard the whole vehicle shook. I was sitting on the porch. Had been sitting there for an hour. Knew he'd come. Mama. His voice was tight. Controlled. The way it gets when he's trying not to explode. What did you do? Hello, baby. Want some lemonade? Don't baby me right now. Nadine just called me sobbing. Said you got her arrested. Said you accused her of fraud. What the hell is going on? I patted the chair next to me. Sit down, son. I don't want to sit down. I want answers. Then you'll get them standing up, I suppose. He paced across my porch. Back and forth like a caged animal. His face was red, hands clenched into fists. Nadine said you told the police she tried to steal this house. That's insane, Mama. She was trying to help you. We both were. You're getting older, living alone isn't safe, and we found you a beautiful place where you'd be taken care of. Without asking me. Because you're stubborn. Because you won't listen to reason. Reason. I stood up slowly. My knees ached, but I made myself stand. Calvin Jerome Maynard, let me tell you about reason. Your wife hired a realtor to sell my house. She forged signatures, mine and possibly yours, to authorize a property transfer I never agreed to. She set up accounts to receive money from a sale that was never legitimate. That's not helping. That's called fraud. You're lying. The words cut deep. Deeper than any knife. I have never lied to you in your entire life. Then you're confused. Mistaken. Nadine wouldn't do that. I walked into my house. came back with a folder. Handed it to him. Read it. All of it. He opened the folder with shaking hands. Inside were copies of everything. The trust documents. The fraud alert from the county clerk. The police report. Calvin's own notarized statement from 5 years ago. I watched his face as he read. Saw confusion turn to disbelief turn to dawning horror. I don't understand, he whispered. This says she filed paperwork 3 days ago. With signatures that weren't verified. With a realtor I've never heard of. Because she did it behind your back, son. She was planning to sell my house, take the money, and put me away before you even knew what was happening. He looked up at me. Eyes red. She wouldn't. She did. But why wouldn't she tell me? Because you would have stopped her. Because you're a good man who loves his mama. But she saw $signs where you saw family. He sat down hard in the porch chair. Folder still open in his lap. When did you set up this trust? 8 months ago. After Nadine came here alone and told me I needed to move to assisted living whether I wanted to or not. She told me you agreed to tour places. I never agreed to anything. She made that up. Calvin put his head in his hands. I don't know what's real anymore. I sat down next to him. Put my hand on his back like I used to when he was small and had nightmares. Your daddy used to tell me something. He'd say, when people show you greed, sit still and let their own hands undo them. I didn't want to believe your wife was greedy, baby. I wanted to be wrong. But I couldn't risk being right and losing everything I have. This is my fault, he said, voice breaking. I brought her into your life. I married her. I should have seen. Love makes us blind sometimes. I defended her. Every time you tried to tell me something was wrong, I shut you down. I chose her over you. You chose your wife. That's what you're supposed to do. Not when she's trying to destroy my mother. He stood up, paced again. I need to call her. I need to hear her side. She's at the police station right now, son. Being questioned. If she's smart, she has a lawyer with her. He pulled out his phone. Dialed. Put it on speaker. It rang 5 times before Nadine answered. Her voice was cold. What? Nadine, I'm at Mama's house. I'm looking at police reports and fraud alerts and documents with your name on them. Tell me this is some kind of mistake. Silence. Long and heavy. Nadine. Your mother is a vindictive old woman who can't stand to see us happy. Answer my question. Did you try to sell her house without permission? It's not her house, Calvin. Not really. You built it. Your money, your sweat, your work. She just has her name on the paperwork because of some tax loophole. It should be ours. She helped fund my business. She gave me $15,000 from selling her father's land. I owe her everything. And we've paid that debt. With 5 years of Sunday dinners and fake smiles and pretending to care about her boring stories. That debt is paid. I watched my son's face crumble. Did you forge her signature? He asked quietly. Another long silence. The realtor said it was just a formality. That since you were her son, we had implied authority. That's not how the law works, Nadine. The law is stupid. She's 72 years old. How much longer does she even need that house? 10 years? 5? Why should prime property sit there wasted when we could use it to expand your business, buy our own place, actually build a life? By stealing from my mother? It's not stealing. Calvin closed his eyes. Yes, it is. He hung up. Stood there holding his phone, staring at nothing. I'm sorry, Mama, he whispered. I'm so sorry. I stood up, walked to my son, put my arms around him like I used to when he was small. He broke. Completely broke. Cried like his heart was shattering into pieces. I married someone who tried to hurt you, he sobbed. How do I live with that? By learning from it. By being better. By choosing right from now on. Can you forgive me? I held him tighter. I already have, baby. I already have. We stood there on my porch, my son crying in my arms, while the sun set behind the trees Arthur used to love. Tag someone who believes karma always comes. It surely did here. That night, Calvin slept in his old bedroom. The one I'd kept exactly as he left it. Same posters on the walls. Same books on the shelf. And in the morning, he'd have to decide what came next. His marriage or his integrity. But tonight, he was just my boy again. And I'd protect him the same way I always had. Calvin came downstairs at dawn. I was already in the kitchen making coffee. Couldn't sleep. I asked. No, ma'am. He sat at the table. Same chair he'd sat in as a child. Mama, I need to know something. What's that, baby? If Nadine hadn't done this, would you have ever told me about the trust? About protecting the house? I poured 2 cups of coffee. Sat across from him. Probably not. I hoped I'd never need to. But you didn't trust me. I trusted you completely, but I couldn't trust your judgment when it came to her. He nodded slowly. You were right not to. We sat in silence for a while, just drinking coffee and watching morning light fill the kitchen. The detective called me last night, Calvin finally said. After you went to bed. They want me to come in for questioning too, to verify that I didn't authorize the sale. And you didn't, right? God no, Mama. I swear on Daddy's grave, I had no idea. Then you have nothing to worry about. Except my marriage ending. I reached across the table, took his hand. Son, let me tell you something about marriage. It's supposed to be built on trust and respect. If those things aren't there, then what you have isn't really a marriage. It's just 2 people living together and calling it love. I did love her. Maybe I still do. I don't know. Love isn't the question, Calvin. The question is, can you ever trust her again? He pulled his hand back. Stared into his coffee cup like answers might be floating there. She tried to take everything from you, he said quietly. How can I stay with someone who'd do that? Only you can answer that. What would Daddy do? The question hung in the air. I thought about Arthur. His steadiness. His quiet strength. The way he always knew right from wrong without any gray area in between. Your daddy would have left her the day he found out. Wouldn't have waited. Wouldn't have looked back. He believed some betrayals can't be forgiven. Do you believe that? I believe some people show you who they are, and you have to decide if you can live with that person. Can you live with a woman who sees your mother as an obstacle instead of family? He shook his head. No, I can't. Then you have your answer. He cried again. Quieter this time. The kind of tears that come when you're mourning something you thought was real but never was. I'm gonna lose the house too, he said. We bought it together. She'll want half of everything in the divorce. Let her have it. Things can be replaced. Integrity can't. Easy for you to say. You have a home. Because I protected it. Now you protect yourself. He left for the police station at 9. Came back 3 hours later looking exhausted. They cleared me, he said. Confirmed I had no knowledge of what she was doing. But Nadine. He paused. She's being charged with fraud, identity theft, and attempted grand larceny. They set bail at $50,000. Is she out? Her parents posted it. But Mama, her lawyer called me. Said she wants to make a deal. She'll plead guilty to lesser charges if you agree not to pursue civil damages. What did you tell them? That it's not my decision. It's yours. I thought about it. About Nadine sitting in a cell. About her perfect life falling apart the way she tried to destroy mine. Part of me wanted her to suffer. Wanted her to feel every ounce of pain she tried to cause. But the other part, the part that sounded like Arthur, said revenge isn't the same as justice. Tell her lawyer I'll agree to the deal on one condition. What's that? She signs a document relinquishing any claim to you, your business, your assets, everything. She walks away with nothing. And she never contacts either of us again. Calvin nodded. I'll tell them. He made the call right there in my kitchen. Negotiated terms with lawyers while I made lunch neither of us would eat. When he hung up, he looked 10 years older. It's done. She agreed. Divorce papers will be filed next week. She'll plead guilty, get probation and community service, and disappear from our lives. How do you feel? Empty. Like everything I thought I had was just pretend. I walked around the table. Hugged my son tight. You still have me. You still have this house. You still have yourself. That's not nothing, baby. It feels like nothing. Right now it does. But time has a way of healing things. Even things that feel broken forever. He stayed with me that whole week. Slept in his old room. Ate my cooking. Helped me in the garden. We didn't talk much about Nadine. There wasn't anything left to say. Instead, we talked about Arthur. About old times. About the life we'd had before everything got complicated. You think Daddy would be disappointed in me? Calvin asked one night. Never. Your daddy would be proud you chose right once you knew the truth. That's all any parent wants. For their child to be a good person. I want to be better. I want to deserve the faith you kept in me. You already do, son. You already do. Would you forgive him if you were in her shoes? Comment yes or no. By the end of the week, Calvin moved his stuff out of the house he'd shared with Nadine. Put it all in storage. Said he'd figure out his next steps later. Can I stay here a while longer, Mama? Just until I get my head straight. This is your home too, baby. Stay as long as you need. That night, I sat on my porch watching the sunset. Calvin was inside cooking dinner. The smell of his daddy's favorite meal drifted through the screen door. My son was home. My house was protected. Justice had been served. Not the loud, explosive kind. The quiet kind that whispers instead of roars. And somehow that felt right. 6 months later, I'm sitting on my porch watching the sun paint the sky orange and pink. The garden's thriving. Tomatoes fat and red. Roses climbing the trellis Arthur built 20 years ago. Everything growing the way it's supposed to. Calvin's truck is in the driveway. He moved back in 3 months ago. Not permanently, but until he figures out his next chapter. I don't mind. House feels less empty with him here. He's different now. Quieter. More thoughtful. The kind of different that comes from learning hard lessons the hard way. Mama, dinner's ready, he calls from inside. Coming, baby. I take one last look at the street. Maple Creek Lane. The place I've called home for years. The place I almost lost. Nadine took the plea deal. Got 2 years probation and 500 hours of community service. The judge said she got off easy because it was a first offense. I don't know if that's true. But it's not my job to decide her punishment. That's between her and whatever conscience she has left. Calvin's divorce was finalized last month. He didn't get emotional when he told me. Just said, "It's done, Mama. Finally done." He's building furniture again. Started taking new orders. Said work helps him think about something other than how stupid he was. I tell him he wasn't stupid. Just human. But he doesn't believe me yet. Maybe someday he will. The Maynard Foundation is still active. Still protecting this property. Still honoring Arthur's memory the way I promised I would. Pastor Williams checks in every few weeks. Makes sure I'm doing okay. Makes sure the trust is functioning properly. Says he's proud of how I handled everything. You could have been angry, he told me last Sunday. Could have been bitter. But you chose wisdom instead. Maybe he's right. Or maybe I was just too tired to be angry. When you've lived as long as I have, you learn that anger takes more energy than it's worth. Dorothy, my friend who serves as the other trustee, keeps telling me to write this story down. Says people need to hear it. Need to know that old women aren't helpless. That quiet doesn't mean weak. So maybe I will. Maybe I'll write it all down. Every word. Every moment. Every time I wanted to scream but smiled instead. Because there's power in that. In knowing the law better than your enemies. In protecting yourself without shouting. In letting people dig their own graves while you tend your garden. Some folks called me cold for what I did. Said I should have talked to Nadine, tried to work things out, given her another chance. But those folks don't understand. You can't talk sense into greed. Can't negotiate with someone who sees you as an obstacle instead of a person. All you can do is protect yourself. Legally, completely, quietly. And that's what I did. Calvin comes to the door. Mama, food's getting cold. I said I'm coming. I stand up slow. My knees complain, but they still work. I'm 72 years old and I'm still here. Still in my house. Still living my life on my terms. That's not revenge. That's survival. Inside, the kitchen smells like pot roast and cornbread. Calvin made Arthur's recipe. Took him 3 tries, but he finally got it right. We sit at the same table where I fed him as a child. Where I planned my defense. Where I decided that protecting myself wasn't selfish, it was necessary. This is good, son, I say, taking a bite. Daddy's recipe. Figured it was time I learned it. We eat in comfortable silence. The kind of silence that only comes when people understand each other completely. After dinner, Calvin washes dishes while I dry. Old routine we fell back into naturally. Mama, he says, hands deep in soapy water. Thank you. For what, baby? For being smarter than me. For seeing what I couldn't see. For protecting yourself even when I made it hard. You're my son. Protecting you means protecting myself. I'm gonna do better. Be better. Find someone who treats you the way you deserve. You just focus on treating yourself right first. The rest will come. He nods. Finishes the last dish. Dries his hands on the towel. I love you, Mama. I love you too, baby. Always have, always will. That night, I sleep better than I have in years. No worries about someone stealing my home. No concerns about betrayal lurking around corners. Just peace. The kind that comes from knowing you did what you had to do. Sometimes justice doesn't roar. Sometimes it whispers. Moves quiet like fog rolling in. Settles soft like snow. And when it's done, when the dust clears and the truth stands naked in the light, all you can do is keep living. Keep watering your garden. Keep cooking Sunday dinner. Keep protecting what's yours without apology. Because that's what Arthur would have wanted. That's what I owe myself. That's what survival looks like when you're an old black woman who refused to be anyone's victim. My story isn't about revenge. It's about boundaries. About knowing your worth. About understanding that sometimes the best weapon is patience and paperwork. And if life ever brings you a Nadine, someone who smiles while planning your downfall, remember this. Don't argue with snakes. Don't waste energy fighting visible battles. Just take your time, file your papers, and let justice whisper instead of roar. The loudest victories are often the quietest ones. Sometimes justice doesn't roar, it whispers. If you believe in quiet justice, hit that like button, share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to this channel so you never miss another story of resilience, wisdom, and survival. Turn on your notifications because we have more powerful stories coming that will inspire you to stand strong, protect yourself, and never let anyone take what's rightfully yours. Drop your thoughts in the comments below and let's build a community where we support and inspire each other. Your story matters. Your voice matters. And together, we're stronger than anything life throws at us. Retry.